Hi, it's Minhas again. So this is going to be the video where we will go through this uh, take-home project and build the whole thing from start to end. So yeah, let's begin. So before building anything, I like to go through the requirements or the use case of what we are building to understand the needs better. So I have already read that. I'll just go through this again. So it's a user intake form, an essential element of Waterlily, which will be used for training machine learning models for the use case. So we need a survey form with question title, basically a form to collect the information from the user. Then we also need to implement authentication, then some potential improvements and tech stack and all that. Okay, great. So now let's plan out what we are going to build. We have got what we want to build. We want to build a survey intake form that will gather data from the user, which can later be used to train a machine learning model. So let's jump into whiteboard and start planning out things. So first things first, see what we are going to build. So it's a form, right? So how the user will be exposed to the form? Is it some kind of the form services we use like hero forms or type forms or and all those form services. We I don't think that's what we want. We want something more of a dashboard or portal type of thing where users can sign up and enter those information or access the form. That's something we want. So what we can build is we will build a dashboard first of all, which dashboard slash a portal which the user can sign up and authenticate for, and we will present this form as an onboarding because in Waterlily we will have users who will sign up and basically that is the sole purpose of the product, I assume. So it makes a lot of sense to put this form as onboarding for every new user who signs up. So yeah, onboarding, and after the user goes through the onboarding, we will create a new row in the database with this info, and the user can enter as many rows as he wants. Because I assume you guys are going to allow information for multiple family members within a single user. So I guess that makes sense. So that's what we'll build. Let's talk about what features we want to include. We definitely want to include authentication. We definitely want forms, and we definitely want to have a dashboard to view all the records, right? And yeah, that should be basically it. Yeah, so these are the things we will implement. Now to implement that, we definitely need a tech stack. So let's talk about the tech stack. I'll be using the T3 stack for this use case. So if I just show what we are going to use, we'll be using the T3 stack. It's the best way to build full stack applications in Next.js. So we'll be using Next.js as our framework with TypeScript, with gRPC, which is basically API endpoints which we'll be writing. This is very amazing because it's fully type safe and very easily debuggable and production friendly. Basically, it's just you can say Next.js API routes wrapper but enhanced. Then we won't be using Prisma. We'll be using a different kind of ORM called Drizzle, which is a lot better SQL ORM. For styling, we'll be using Tailwind CSS, and for auth, we'll use instead of next auth, we'll be using better auth, which is a lot better, as the name suggests. So that is going to be our tech stack. So I think that's basically it. We can, yeah, we can go ahead and bootstrap our application now. So I'll just go to the docs and see the quick start. I really like this tech stack which we are using because it's totally platform agnostic, so you don't have to rely on any specific platform for deployment. You can deploy it on Cloudflare, Vercel, or AWS if you want. My favorite platform for deployment would be Cloudflare as they are serverless and Next.js is actually very serverless friendly. So the best you can do is deploy it on Cloudflare pages, and for the API routes you can deploy them in Cloudflare workers, which is the best serverless edge network currently available in the market. Let's also do the authentication next. So for this tutorial, I think I will proceed with Google OAuth as it is quite much more simpler to implement and also does not need require any kind of verification and all that. It's already quite uh, production ready. So for the sake of simplicity, I'll be using Google OAuth, but we could obviously use email password and do account session management and all that. But I don't think that should be the focus of this session which we are doing. If I have time, I might implement show you how to implement that. But let's keep it simple for now. So we will be doing Google OAuth. When it's done, let's open it up in our editor. Okay, great. So now we need to start a database which we will be using. For that, I will just spin up a database in Docker and expose it. And this thing is so amazing. It gives you a script to start a new database in Docker. So we'll just run that script. Great. Yes. So what's my password? I'm assuming it's that, but let's double check from the Docker instance. Here's the database. Yeah, that's the password. So I'll just replace the password with actual one. There we go. Now we have everything set up. Nice. Let's actually commit our initial make. So then now let's see if we can run this. So we have some error because oh yeah, so we have to run some database migrations before we can start the app. So I'll just run db generate. This will basically our all our database schema is defined in a TypeScript file. Over here, as you can see, we have a table called posts with those columns and definitions. So once we run generate, it is going to generate the SQL code equivalent to that schema. Now we have to run this migration file against our database. For that, we'll run db post. Once we do that, our database will be ready and our app should run just fine. Let's refresh. Nice, we have that. We have this starter component which lets us add a new post so it gets submitted and shown over here. Okay, great. Now we will do our own stuff. Let's do some cleanup. We don't need this post table, obviously. So remove that and delete. So I'll just start everything from scratch. I don't like this prefix before my table names. So I'll just remove that. Also remove it from here like this. Now that we have that, we can actually go ahead and implement authentication. First of all, need to install. Need data secret. let's have it. Yes. We'll also add it here in order to make sure whenever we run this application, we have the specified env vars. So to make sure we never miss anything. That's the beauty of this tech stack we are using. Everything is in control and type safe. So we developers don't ever mess up. The ACL, I don't think we need that. Even if we do, I would just perfect. So we have this setup for authentication. We have a user table session account which we will not need further. We only need the user table for now. So now that we have this setup, we have to do that step again. And now we can actually visit our database through this studio. I'm not sure why it's not showing the tables. Oh, we had to push the changes. We did not yet. We just generated the SQL code but did not push anything. So let's do this. Go. So now yes. Yeah, perfect. So we will stay over there. Now we want to implement what the Google what. So we'll go to Google. Now we need to get some credentials. I will just get from my previous project which I created already. So I should have those client ID and client secret which we need. Alright then here also update the example for the next developer reference. Now we'll also update the schema of our NP. Nice. No need of that. Let's remove those unused components which we don't need. No need. So now let's talk about how we are going to structure our routes and all that. Route structure. First of all, we'll have the landing, which is going to be the login. This is the landing page, meaning the home page. Then from here, once the user signs up, we'll have the onboarding page, which is the form. These are going to be protected routes. Protected routes. And within that we have onboarding. After onboarding, we have dashboard. And that's how the structure should be. So based on this, we can group our routes. In Next.js, we have a feature called route grouping. So we'll keep our auth routes here. This homepage will be within that group. Let's just call it home login page. Then we'll have our routes that are protected. I will just call them app, or let's call it main, maybe. Whatever, doesn't matter. So we'll come to it a bit later, this route group. Let's first implement auth. For the auth UI, I want something very simple, which I already wrote in one of my code bases. So I can probably refer to that. So we have this auth. We have this super simple component, as you can see over here, this and that. So I can just copy it and paste it here like this. No need of that. We just need the sign up form, which is this. Pretty simple, nothing fancy. Oh yes, we also need a component library setup. So basically our UI library, which we haven't set up yet. For that I'll be using ChatCN UI. So it has all the primitives and components we might need in this app. So we will just go through the quick start guide. By the way, you might have noticed I'm not using the AI or the chat feature that much because I like to do the initial setup or the foundation of the project by myself because without it I get kind of lost because AI is not that great at setting up a good foundation for a project. So I like to do this manually and later once we have a good foundation then I can use the chat feature. So provider, real just was Google, we have all these. These are not imported yet because we are still initializing. That pretty simple button. So now we'll add the components individually. For now we just need button input and all that. What else we might need. Okay, if we need anything we'll add later. But now these two will do enough. Oh yes, we need the card. So we are adding quite a bit of files in this commit, as you can see. Red, errors are gone. Remove this. Perfect. Import that. When we did the init, it already added those functions which we need. Right. I need the provider points C points Google. Just copy this. Then use it as it is. Leaving those empty for now. Yeah, no more errors. Can run this. Out. Okay, we removed quite a bit of files, but we did not update everything. So I'll just remove this. So we don't have it anymore. Remove, simply remove. We just need to clear the cache. Perfect. We'll just change those things. We'll call it Waterlily. So if we click on that, it should authenticate us. I don't know. Okay, I think I'm doing something wrong. Redirect URL. Hidden this redirect. So once the user signs up and logs in, we want to redirect him to the onboarding page. This is how it should be. Then let's check the docs. The reason being we haven't set it up yet in the config. So we'll just do this now. I don't like to do use this as notation in TypeScript because the type should be self-explanatory. So it's a string, it's always a string. We don't need to say as string. We have this provider now. We can definitely sign up now. So let's use any output. So perfectly, we got redirected to onboarding. We haven't created that page yet, obviously. So with that, we can say the authentication feature is done. Perfect. We can just do a check mark here. The next thing we want to do is form slash the onboarding. Now I'll make some changes in the schema. Now it's a good time to use the chat feature. Let's create an updated that image. No problem. We can add a new column in this table called for onboarding to assure if check if the user is onboarded or not. Onboarded. So this is going to be a boolean value. In the database, I always like to do snake case, and in the code, I always do camel case because just makes a lot of sense, and I think it's a good practice as well. So he's onboarded. So in the main file, I will create a new page for onboarding. I will also create a new one for in the main. We can do a dashboard page. This is basically the page where we show all the records. So since this is a protected route, we need to make sure only authenticated users can access it. That's why I'm adding a layout file here, which will cover both of these routes, dashboard and onboarding. It will make sure the user is always authenticated while accessing those routes. So the way we do that is you can just say that the user to access this layout or redirect to slash, which is our login. Meanwhile, we can work on this. So over here, we also need a new table for the submissions. We probably should have added a instruction file for the AI, but anyways, I guess it will work well either ways. Nice. So let's plan out how we are going to implement onboarding and what features are we going to have in onboarding. Right. So onboarding, this is going to be a series of questions. So what questions do we ask? These are basically going to be static questions. Yeah, so now how we really ask So basically, if I refer to the docs, you mentioned it already quite well. We want to have the best UX while doing the survey. So we'll do single question display format, of course. Then we will also allow navigation between questions for sure. We'll also do progress indicator and of course form validation. So we'll be doing all that. Now what questions to ask? That's a good question. What questions do we ask? Questions. I'm not quite sure what you will be having in production, but for the sake of simplicity, I'll add some mock questions in this case. So I'll just use AI to generate some. As you can see, this is how we authenticate the user. We get the session. If there is no session, we redirect to login, or else we just render the content. For onboarding, let's go ahead. Over here, we also need to do some checks. And previously, we were getting 404. This time, we should have an onboarding page shown over here. Failed to get session. Why the fail? It can only fail if we haven't configured it properly. Let's check the database. We have everything here. So let's see. We also have a session, so we should be able to retrieve it as well. Okay. Let's see also. Let's see how we sort of did that before. We're doing it the same way as before. Don't think it's needed. I guess because we added a new column, we have to do everything We have to push those changes before anything, like a default value. We'll find now. I'm not so used to it talking a lot while doing work, but yeah, it's quite a new experience for me. Definitely something I want to explore more. So perfect. We are still in the onboarding phase there. That means the session was retrieved perfectly. As you can see, we have this session, we have the user and the user information and all. Yes, the authentication is working. So the way we want to have the onboarding page is we want to make sure if the user is already onboarded, then we don't want him to visit this. So that's what we'll be doing. So the this thing does not contain the custom thing we added, so we need to write our own procedures for that. So we'll be using TRPC. We need a protected procedure which makes sure before the making the API request, it checks if the user is authenticated or not. I'll refer to my previous code base. So the way we do that is TRPC. We have this protected procedure, so we just copy this. We also have some other ones. Protected procedures over here we'll just check if there is a user or not. If not, we throw an error or else we go to the next route or function we have. While creating the context, we check the session. So yeah, this is perfect. Now routers, I'll create a new router out the yes, this is a authentication router. So over here we need to create a new router like this. Yeah, yeah, this is a router. I'll just call it out router like that. Then we can define our endpoints like create list or whatever. So out router the authenticated user. Let's just get user. This is going to be a protected route, protected procedure dot query in the query like this. Let's just say based on the CTX that user CTX already get run the database where the query. So we want to check if the user is already onboarded, and if he is, then we can basically redirect him to the dashboard since he's already onboarded. So for the onboarding page, let's talk about the UI a bit. This is going to be quite simple. This is our onboarding page. So first of all, we'll have a progress bar over here. Let's see, this is the progress bar. It will say how much is done. We can see here step 1 of 3 or n. Over here we'll ask the question. Then we can obviously have a question description. Then there will be some input field, which can be multiple choice or whatever. We'll have all that. Then we'll have a button here. It will allow the user whether to go to the next question, or we can also navigate to the previous question. That's basically how we can make it like step 1 of let's add it here. We also want to give the user more context around what this form is about. So we'll just have a form name, what this form is about. Over there we can show step 1 by n or whatever, everything. So that's how we can make it. Perfect. Let's screenshot this and share it with our AI. This page I want to create like us form in this. So there can be multiple types of questions. Let's open-ended questions which can be handled with inputs. There can be multiple choice questions. For that, we need to determine the options. And these are the two types of questions. Yes. Also, it can be text area. It will be determinable. Those data stored could be extremely types of start implementing it one by one from installation to end. Yeah, I guess that's all. At the end of the steps in the form, it should have a submit function or I can access the form state. Basically, that is the user in the implemented as simply as you can. Tell me your plan first, how you will implement. If I give you a green flag, you can start implementing. So the way we can implement this, which I'm thinking is, we'll have each question. First of all, we'll have a schema which will contain all the questions, and we'll have a sub schema which will contain individual questions. So the way it can work is for individual questions, we'll have individual steps displayed like this. So this is a individual question schema. By clicking on next, we'll uh, validate those user inputs against our individual question schema. If it's perfect, we will do next, or else we will throw error basically. Then at the end step, we will validate against all question schema to check if all the inputs altogether in those steps are validated, and only then we accept his submission and save it in the database. That's how it can work. That's what the AI has suggested, which is important. Types of data, text area, multiple choice, how define data in questions, text, multiple choice. Steps build. Yeah, this is basically what I just suggested, which is perfect. Let's start implementing the break break it down into smaller components and store them in components slash and slash app slash onboarding slash components. Be meaningful. Let's see. Our plan is perfect. If our plan is perfect, the AI will basically write all the code we need, which is perfect. Yeah, that should be it. Now we can just see. Yes, perform checkbox progress. Looks good to me. So we are almost at 1 hour mark. Now we need to do this knowledge. Where did it stop? AI has its own quirks. And, uh, I don't think we need this cat thing. Super weird. So it should add those components in our components slash UI folder. As we have a button and discard, as you can see. Yeah, perfect. It just added them. Yeah, perfect. Going good. Define types for question data concepts. Perfect. So we can define the data. Oh my god, we should define it inside. My bad. Let's move them. We'll move them like this. Move that. Basically, I was using that leave outside source, which happened by accident. It should not happen like this. So I just put it back inside source, just like that. Yeah, everything else looks perfect. So it is working on the next part. We have this new types.ts components types. I don't like why it put types inside these components, but anyways, we can make it work or edit later. We have base question, then we are extending it and doing different questions. Perfect. Exactly how I would do it. Perfect. So each step has ID total questions. This is just perfect. About your full name bio, it creates those. Very nice. What is that? That's not how I would like to be. Stop, stop. Let's work on this. Let's create a schema for each step and define that schema. And then we can create a final schema, putting all the steps schemas together. That's how it should be. Nice. It is already handling all the edge cases for the question. So if it's a test question, it's rendering the input and handling it with text area than this. But probably not the cleanest way to write this. We could use put them in objects like this. Field is equal. Then we'll have the type of the field, and based on that we can have this. If it's like text area, we can have something else. You cannot do this. If you do this, the types mess up. So I remove them and just do manual merge. That's the navigation component. So this is the most parent component where all the states live and passed down to those children components like navigation. We could use like React context or any kind of state management libraries like Zoostan and all that, but I guess for simple use cases like this, it's fine. Yeah, this is pretty good, working as expected. We have just need to fix some type errors here. So I'll just fix them. Two more errors. This is extremely lengthy. I'm not reading any of this. I'll just let him fix that. No, that's already got string. So full schema. Yeah, this is perfect. So just explicitly define input and output values of that form. Now, yeah, this seems pretty fine. So we are getting this ratio because we need to define the default values and what we are doing. So let's define them. Interests, 10 minute, that should work. Student, AI, product, then if we submit, we should have all the values in a nice formatted object. I'll just add more steps to make this more intuitive and realistic because in real world scenario we have a bit more steps. So we'll just add more steps to it. So we have more steps now. Username, website. So these are just mock questions. We can obviously make them relevant after I have your instructions. But for now, that's all we are having. You know, as I'm not really familiar with your business yet, I'm unable to reply any relevant questions that you might have. So username is required. Now that we have all those data, we can actually go ahead and do the backend work. This is the front end part done. So we're adding the validation for the username. Make sure it has minimum 3 and max 20, making them URL friendly by prohibiting those things. And also always use lowercase letters, numbers, and underscores, and nothing else. Onboarding client. Need that, and the submission in the multi step form content, because this is totally redundant. We can just do it in the form. We don't need another abstraction on top of the form. So now that we have all that, we can go ahead and create a new router. Let's just call it onboarding spell as router. Or now just an empty router and add it. These guys totally stupid. We could just do it anyways. AI keeps totally no problem. So we'll do the onboarding form here. So all those data that we have here are related to the user. Maybe we can just store everything in the users table. Right, that makes a lot of sense. We don't need a separate table. Because the mock data I have added is just about what's the user itself. So in the API database, we will now edit the schema. Now let's update the database schema to all those time response in the table. Let's update the user table. Update the schema in a way so that client and database are synced with the schema. So it should do that. Quite a bit of edits. Okay, looks like AI is being lazy. He wants to store everything in a single column as a JSON value. That's not what we want. I'll just undo all that. I mean, it's not the best design, but we are shipping fast, so I think that makes sense. It's the bare minimum we can have while having the best UX, but it's not the best UI, of course. We can iterate a lot more, but since we have such a short window, let's do it like this. So, alright, so that's not really the best thing to do to add them as an enum as they change quite a lot. We can change, yeah, full name, bio, role, that makes sense, but that's not how I want it. Maybe what we can do is we can keep these in the user table, but first of all, let's not make them enums. They can just allows string values from these two. AI is not that great. I mean, look, it made this not null, but These are for the onboarding, we cannot be having them while creating an account with Google, right? These are gonna be empty, basically. What I would do is I would create a new table for, let's say, user details, and in that I would contain the full name, bio, and role, also interest, and username should be in the user table, and I make it nullable, and also the website in the user details table, and these two I would create a separate table for them. So we are adding this thing, constant dot check. I think that's so much. So if we allow them to be null, then we have to do null check while populating this data, regardless of this variable state onboarded or not. But I guess that makes the most sense right now. Website, currency. I guess what I want to do is put those in a different. So put this in a different table. Oh no, it's not needed. We can just put this to in a different table called notification settings. If we get have one second, we will contain these two columns because it doesn't make sense to have this here. This one makes sense as these are all the user info. I thought I would create another table called user info and that will extend this user table, but I don't think that's needed. We can just store them in the user table and just remove them in the other one like this. Not unique frequency channels, whatever updated that. And this is pretty much what I want. Yeah, that's a good point to move on. When we generate no warnings, that means there are no breaking changes in the database. The previous change features which we implemented will still work as it should. So now we'll go to the router onboarding. Okay, and then the form submission. Now handle the form submission here. Boom, so just let it handle it. It's quite simple. I don't really need to tell much. It just needs to validate the inputs, check if the do some validation like if the username already exists or not, and save those records, create new rows in the in the notification settings. So yeah, that's quite straightforward. I think there is nothing to mess up. So we have user, and then we ran the other command. Then we run it twice. We don't need to check that. The protected procedure already does that. So we're updating the user like this, onboard set to true, exactly how it should do. It's checking if I find first, then it's updating or inserting like that. This is not the best way to do it. I think drizzle upside. There should be something called upside in drizzle. So I'll just check how it can be done. I'm going to click the update. Okay, that makes sense. We are inserting these values, and if there is a conflict, then we will ask login. Okay, then try to use upside instead of doing it like this. Build of docs, do this. So we can updated the schema. Why again schema? Onboarding schema. It makes sense to add it in the root as we'll use it across, so probably not this schema. Root target user currency. It's not needed here. I was just here. It's a new table. We could just do insert, but upsert makes more sense in this case. As I said, this is not needed here. No need to overcomplicate it. That's really all you need. As it for this full schema. Let's keep the default price. Username will be needed as its input. Website will also need as its input. Other ones don't, as they don't have an on-change handler. They are select or radio buttons. We have the schema. So we have this schema. I'll just move those somewhere else. Somewhere else meaning this part. We only have a single source of truth. We also need the stack. So we will import. I need to put them somewhere else. It cannot be like this. And going down schema. We'll just call it ongoing down schema. Once we do that, What can be possibly wrong here? Let's check. We have that. We can remove this one. No problem. This looks good to me. This is too good. I just want to have onboarding schema. We'll just switch LLMs and see if we get any help. So that's the beauty of this tech stack, which is full type safety. So in our API route, we are doing schema validation with this input function. So we're passing in this schema, which has to be validated against. So we are doing the schema validation in the server. We are also using that schema to do client-side validation with this, and everything is so well synced and it can't really go wrong, to be honest. That's the reason why I use that. It's just amazing. So now that we have that, we should be able to get this feature working. Where are we? Reload. The full name, schedule, don't pick one, you will be errored. Like that. If you enter invalid URL like this, if you don't want to, you can keep it empty. But since you did, now we have to quickly submit. Should create a new record. We got redirected to dashboard, which still does not exist. I will very soon. So we have a notification setting. Everything is perfect here. We have an account, we have a user, everything. All the data are here. So one thing is, I want to make the website thing optional even though the user has errored. That's a UX flaw we have. It is optional. So now that we are onboarded, if we try to access onboarding, it will just send us back to dashboard, which is perfect. Let's commit. So let's do a simple dashboard. We can just do a simple data display for now, like this. I'll also show the empty state for the AIS reference. Um, we are almost approaching the 2 hour mark and it's almost at the end. Yes, we have also done this. We'll just mark it. Now comes the last step, onboarding. But yes, it will create a new procedure for getting all the onboarding data, as you can see. While this, that, I don't like how it does the query. Select, should be able to select specific ones. Yes, just like this. Columns, represent the columns. So onboarding data. Then I also want panels, website. These two can be omitted. Just username. So I don't like the way it fetches the data. It does server-side rendering, so the navigation time is going to be slow. What I want to do is I want to pre-fetch it on the server, not fetch. So if we pre-fetch in the server and do the actual fetching in the client component with the Next.js streaming feature, it can be a lot faster. So since this is how it can be, let's put this whole card component in a client side component sport 2555 card. This is just a little optimization we are doing, not necessarily it's needed. We have to make it TSX. So we don't have the data, right? So we will just do const data. I will refer to my previous code base how we do this. I have already done this before. So this is how we do that. Prefetch it in the server. So we'll just prefetch it on the server API dot onboarding dot get. So we'll prefetch in the server. So then we have to hydrate the client. Inside the hydrate, we can render the user details card like this. Now that we do this, then we can fetch the data in the client side. We want to use suspense query instead of use query. So what it will allow us to do is data. Okay. So why use suspense instead of use query? So it's a feature of React query that basically suspends the component, which is a React feature of React 18, I think. If you suspend the component, that means until it's unsuspended, it will basically stream a loading state. So basically, with this suspend query, it will suspend this component. So while this component is suspended, it will not be rendered. And as a fallback, while this component is suspended, we can show a loading spinner or something. Let's say loading data. So while this component is suspended, it will be the case until the data is fully fetched. So until the data is fully fetched, it will be suspended once. So while it is being suspended, it will show this loading data instead of this card. Once the data fetching is done, we'll see the card and all the details. So that's why we're doing this. This is a much more efficient way of fetching data, which is a lot better and more performant, and it has the best user experience, which is our priority. So the data can also be undefined. So if there is no data, you can just say if we don't have data, we can assume he hasn't been onboarded yet. So we just do slash onboarding channels. This is not an event. I did not want that. Remove this. We are totally ready. So perfect. We now can see the name, bio, everything. I don't like the spacing, so I will just edit this. I have to edit it every time, just like that. Interests, yes. So yeah, that's basically it. We can additionally add a logout button in this. So in the components, you can create a logout TSX logout button here. So this should essentially let us log out and get back into the authentication page. So with this, we are also done with the dashboard and record. Pretty much done. We'll just do one layer of testing, manual testing, then it should be done. Finally, we'll discuss what are the next steps towards production, because obviously we cannot just ship it right away now. What we have to do before shipping, and just discuss that. I don't like the code it generates. Anyways, I did not customize it properly. No problem. So auth prime dot, there should be a sign out option. Then we can do router can just push it to the, this really does not need any backend, but that's it. Can now render the logout button here. The best part is that this data fetching is totally independent or encapsulated into this little component. So the loading state will only take place of the card. The logout button still remains visible, which is, this is how it should be for the best user experience. Now let's do 8 space 8, adding some space between, so it looks like that. Now that we can log out, as you can see we are logged out. So let's see if we can sign up with a new account and everything works fine or not. So let's use another Gmail. Perfect. We are at the onboarding now. So let's say I do not enter that. Oh, one more thing. We did not give the default values. That's why it's giving the issue. So I'll just come here, give the default values, or else the inputs are going to complain. Username and website. Then this and token and donor. So we can move back and forth like this, which is nice. Product design. So it's required. Ratul. If I do invalid URL from the issue is it's still saying error, which is it should not. We will get into that in a second. Let's see if we can submit and view our info properly. As you can see, everything is perfect here, just perfect. This is so nice. I mean, it's the best UX user experience, but not the UI. And that's how much we can do in just 2 hours. If we had more time, we could spend a lot of time making the UI a lot better. But I'm just having a bit OCD with this spacing, so I'll fix it. I just can't see it like this. I'll make the text 3XL just for better hierarchy. 3XL image XL. Yes, that should be it. I really don't like how it does font medium. Let them be regular. But font weight. The black, making the text black is already enough for hierarchy. Making it medium just makes it a lot exaggerated. Yeah, much better. You can improve a lot. Let's keep it here. We got a little bug fix. Type details. Now let's try creating another account to debug that form. Once we debug, we are done for the day. So in this form, we are saying mode on submit. I will say mode on change. Get rid of the revalidate mode. Let's see if it fixes the issue or not. Uh, can go. Let's do next. Why does it change? Mode should be verify to all. Now let's give it on submit. We could also implement some local storage so the changes, the details the user is entering would persist even though he accidentally refreshes. As you can see, it went away, but we could add that persisting layer. But anyways, that's not. We'll do it another time, I guess. No, it should go on change. So I guess this makes perfect sense. If we just do this, it should be fixed. So let's say error. Now we fixed it. Now we have that. Okay. Then here, plus we added this. Website should be optional, but since we added empty string, it is doing the validation, invalid URL validation, but that's not how the behavior should be. Transform optional string dot optional dot URL. Added that. Optional, we are doing optional. Well, let's see. Even though the URL is optional, I cannot repeat empty while submitting fixes. There must be something related to the chaining, how I'm calling those calling this sequence. It should first be optional, then should think see if it's not optional. If the user has entered a value, then check if it's a valid URL or not. Sort of. But let's see what it comes up with. Okay, that works. So yeah, everything is working. Everything's perfect. So with that, we can call it here. I know we got a lot of work to do. The UI is not great. We still got a lot of things to implement. That's what I will talk about now. So what are the next steps before production? First of all, we need to implement rate limiting to make sure no one can just spam API requests. That's the first thing. Then we should also implement the email password auth. We should also make the UI better. We should also do proper security practices. For that, I have a checklist that we should follow. So as you can see, yes, I missed a crucial one, which is testing your code. As you can see, we need to add testing. We already did schema. We need to add break limiting. We need to test our code. And if we are doing email password auth, we should also check for fake email submission validation. Row level security, that's not needed in this case. And we should also add basic monitoring and logs like what's going on in our app. If there are any errors, we should be able to monitor it and all that. So that basically wraps up today's session. I think I that basically checks all the requirements you had. I tried to do all the things you mentioned, and I think we it's pretty much MVP ready. I think should be able to go ahead and submit. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I don't expect you to enjoy it because it's really just more working than talking. I'm really not a talk person while working. Other than that, I'm quite chill actually. But but yeah, that's all I had for today. It's been almost 2.5 hours. Took a bit longer than expected as I don't work with this tech stack that much. It's been a while. I'm more of a Next.js Superbase type of kind of guy. So it's been a while working with this new tech stack. It could be done earlier. It can be a lot better. So yeah, I look forward to your response. Thanks for watching till the end. I really appreciate your time. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.